think I left my curlers in a little bit too long this morning because my bangs are giving like windows to the soul and I can't control them. I also think that my outfit makes me look like a grandmother. Do with that information what you will. I don't know what to do about this. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Today we are talking about something a little bit fun. I wanted to reflect on like nostalgic and maybe a little bit niche games from my childhood. Now I say a little bit niche because like to me they feel like they could be like, I don't want to say like underground, undiscovered, but you know, maybe just a little bit forgotten. Because I suppose when I was growing up we didn't talk about games how we do now. There wasn't that kind of culture because it was still sort of emerging, at least where I grew up anyway. So I don't want to say like, oh, nobody's ever heard of these games, they're so like, you know, no, that's not what I'm going for. But they are really cool and I feel like I haven't met a whole bunch of people who like have played them. So I kind of wanted to see if maybe there's like a community of people on the internet who do remember the games that I'm going to talk about and can be like, oh my god, you know, yes. Because sometimes, you know, when you're like having a conversation with somebody and they mention something and it like triggers, like it unlocks a memory in your head that you didn't even know existed and it all comes kind of like flooding back to you in this wave of nostalgia. That's what I'm aiming for today with this video, and I'm gonna do it by chatting about some games that I played when I was growing up as a kid. Anyway, when I thought about filming this video, there was one game that immediately popped into my head as like probably one of the biggest games that I remember playing as a child, and it was from quite young. It was on the computer, and we had a computer in like our family room in like the lounge, and all of us kids would like take turns playing it. And I especially watched my brothers play a lot of these games when I was very, very young because I wasn't old enough to play them or wasn't good enough to play them. And then as I sort of grew up, I started playing them myself. So the first one that came to my mind is a game called Secret Agent. And it's like this little, almost like a side scroller, but it's 2D and you're this little guy. He's a secret agent and he like, I was gonna say torpedoes, not torpedoes, parachutes onto a little island, and you like walk around the island and you do all the levels, and then at the end there's a castle and you've got to beat the castle. And it is just, it's so cute. And I found this game again probably about a year ago and downloaded it through like a really dodgy website that probably definitely gave my laptop viruses, but it's so worth it. It's one of those games that's like, it's perfect because it's exactly how it was when I was a kid, and it's like still hard enough to be like, okay, this is a challenge, but not so hard that you're like, oh my god, how did I play this as a kid? Because I don't know about you guys, but when I played the Crash like remake, you know how they like re-released it? They did a bunch of stuff to it that when you were playing it, it was like, this wasn't this hard as a child. Surely I haven't gotten drastically shittier at video games. Why is this so difficult? No. Thankfully this one is like, oh my god, I remember this being an asshole to get past as a kid, and it still is as an adult because I'm a little bit rusty, okay? But no, it's such a good game. It's so fun, and I've never met anybody outside of like my family who knows what this game is, so I'm like, is this a random game that somehow ended up on our computer and nobody even knows the origin of it? Or like, was it recommended to my family from someone? I have no idea. All I remember is from being very, very young, watching hours worth of my brothers, especially my brother Jason, playing this game and just being so good at it, and me being like, oh, I'm gonna do that one day. And then the very first time I ever beat that game, it was like, oh, it was like a defining moment, a pivotal moment in my childhood of I finally beat Secret Agent. I am going to jump around a little bit, like these aren't necessarily going in order of like, okay, I was 5 when I played this game and then I was 6 when I played this game. No, I just wrote a list on my phone of like games as I remembered them. So the next one is probably, it's from high school realistically, and I don't know if anybody remembers that site Cool Math Games. We spent so much time on that in school because it had math in the name of it, you know, so the teachers would always be like, oh, it's educational, just let the children do what they want. But we would spend so much time on that website. Specifically, my favorite game was Fireboy and Water Girl. Simple, easy, again, it's just like a little platformer game that you can either play by yourself, but the characters have separate controls, like one was the WASD and the other one was the arrows. Yes. Don't know what one was what, don't ask me. And you could either play by yourself, like playing each character and taking turns, or you could play with a friend. And I really liked that because me and my friends would sit next to each other and... But also, like, if I ended up in a class that my friends weren't in, I could still kind of like screw around, and then next time you meet up with them, you can be like, oh my god, I figured out how to beat this level. And it's the kind of game that's like so easy that you could beat it in like one sitting, but also it's fun enough that it's got that like simple replayability that you're like, oh, I know how to beat this level, it's so easy, I'm gonna go and do it. Or next time it'd be like, okay, well, I played Fireboy last time, so I'm gonna play Waterboy. I played Fireboy last time, so I'll play Water Girl this time. That kind of game. It was just, I would like to play that one again. That one was very fun. Okay, an actual game that I played the crap out of was SpongeBob SquarePants Employee of the Month. Now, someone actually gifted me this, and I think it was for like a birthday or something like that, because I obviously was starting to get into like playing things on the computer more. Again, very, very early PC game. I think this was released in about 2001, 2002, and it's a point and click game, which is really cool. When I was doing this list, Googled a little bit to make sure that I had the right one, because there's a couple of different SpongeBob games and I couldn't remember exactly which one it was, but it's definitely Employee of the Month. The cover of this one has like, it's like a picture frame with SpongeBob in it. And it's so good. This was definitely my first like point and click adventure, and it's so good. I remember being like with Patrick, and then there's like a section with Sandy, Mr. Krabs obviously, and you go to Rock Bottom where you meet the like kind of creepier creatures that live behind the desk at the bus station. Especially that lady stands out to me a lot. And then there's like where you get to near the end, there's a really, really fancy place, and that part always stumped me, and that's the bit that still sticks out in my mind a lot. When I was young, I used to get to this part where you had to get into this really fancy restaurant, and it took me so long to figure it out. I remember specifically hanging out at like, because the restaurant had like a big wall around it and then a gate, and you had to figure out how to get in. And I remember being stuck at this wall part for the longest time, not knowing how to get in. And then the first time I finished the game, it was like, okay, sick, figured it out, now we're gonna go back and speed run it. And that's what I did. Ever since that day was my replay mileage on that game must have been so high. I wish we had what we have now where like, you know, you log into Steam or something and it tells you how many hours of a game that you've played. If I could have that for that SpongeBob SquarePants game, I have absolutely no doubt that it would be like 200 hours of just the same storyline on repeat, because your girl was addicted. Once I figured out how like to do it, I was like, I wonder how fast I could do it. So that was my intro into speed running before I even knew what speed running was. I am so ungodly pale. Are you coming? Where are you? Yes. Hello. We had this whole little binder, like a CD case, for PlayStation demo discs. Don't know if anybody remembers them, but we had a crap ton of them, like a whole little CD case full, and it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to about 30, and they were so good. I remember like as a kid having my PlayStation 1, my little folder of demo discs, and I used to just like cycle through them and play my favorite games on each disc. Thank you for that, Ruddy Cat. He's scratching on his cat tree. But specifically, there are a couple that I can remember. There was a very, very early Tomb Raider one, the one where Lara Croft had like pointy triangle titties and she was in a hole, and the only thing that you did was like climb to the top of this hole and kill these skeletons. Don't know what the point of that was. I think that was probably like one of the first Tomb Raider games. Very, very early demo. Also, there was a Toy Story game where I think you were Woody and you could like run around the bedroom and find all the other toys and things like that. That one was pretty fun. But my number one game from those demo discs is a game called Legend of Dragoon. Now, I know there's a full game to this. I have never ever played it, but I have recently been looking into trying to find it. And all I remember is it's sort of like Final Fantasy-esque in my head. It's like a turn-based game where you do kind of just like explore this little world and you come across enemies and you fight them. And for me, that was like peak entertainment. That's another one that I used to play on repeat, even though it was probably like 15 minutes maybe max of gameplay. I absolutely fell in love with that, and I've had an obsession with it the last maybe like 6-8 months. It keeps popping up in my head, so that's why I've been looking for it. I'm hoping that I can get a copy of it and then some way to play it, not even so that I can find that like little demo thing, because odds are it's probably not in the game at all, but just to see if it's anything like what I remember it being, and if it does stand up to Final Fantasy in any way, because one of the reasons I loved it so much is because one of my brothers was very, very into Final Fantasy, and I thought it was just the coolest thing, but I wasn't very good because I was so young, so I could never really play it. But Legend of Dragoon, this little tiny demo, was like almost the baby version of it, and it kind of made me feel like, oh, I could be a gamer, you know, like I could be good at this kind of thing as like a little kid who had no experience. So I have like a little bit of an attachment to this game, even though I've never played it, and I know that's kind of weird, but like that little snippet of demo was enough for me to be like, I could do this, I could play big people games. And I think it really is one of the games that brought that kind of like fuel and that love for gaming for me, so I would love to revisit that one day. Okay, the game from my childhood, my like biggest nostalgia trip ever, is a PlayStation 1, I believe it is, PlayStation 1 game called Guardians Crusade. Now I have a copy of this, and it is the original copy from when we were children. This is another one that I watched my brothers play. I never watched them finish it. I feel like I always saw my brother get up to a certain point in the game and he could never get past it. And then when I got old enough to play it, the exact same thing would happen to me. I'd get to this one spot and it was too hard and I could never figure out quite what to do. Like I'd get to this city and obviously there was some sort of quest or something you had to do, but I could just never quite figure out what it was. And obviously back in the day, you couldn't just Google it to figure out what the heck you had to do. So it would always be, okay, well I'll have to put it down and then I'll just start again and play it again, because the game is so much fun that a couple years ago I decided I was going to find it and buy it, and I did. I brought it off eBay and it was in French, which was my bad, 100%. I take full responsibility for that. I paid like $60 for this game, and I didn't realize that it was in French. And of course back then there was no way to be like, oh, I want it in English, because this one just was what it was, you know. And I was so upset, but I held on to it because it came in like the full case, had like the picture and everything on the front, and I was like, you know what, I'm part way there, I'll figure it out one day. But I was so upset because it felt like I was so close to having this thing that I wanted so desperately, but I couldn't use it, you know? And then I think it was probably about a month or so later, I was back at my childhood home visiting my mum, and I wanted like her phone charger or something in her bedroom. She told me it was in her drawer. So here I am, just like rummaging through all of her shit, because what kind of child am I if I don't steal my mother's and my siblings' things? So I'm like looking around, trying to find whatever the heck I was looking for. And I looked down on the floor, and the way that her room was set up was that there was 2 built-in wardrobes, and it had like a little alcove with a desk in it. And it was underneath the desk on the floor. And it's the Guardians Crusade disc just in the little tray. Like, you know how they clip into a tray and usually that's in the fold down case? Well, the case is gone. No idea where the case is. It's just the little black tray with the disc in it. And the disc for Guardians Crusade is a bright pink, so you cannot miss it. And let me tell you, I cried immediately. I picked that shit up. I forgot completely about what I was actually looking for and ran down to the lounge, and I was like, Mum, you'll never guess what I found. And she was like, okay. I'm like, you are not understanding what this means to me right now. And she's like, no, I'm not. I mean, just have it if you want it. And I was like, I am. That was not a question. It's coming home with me. So have I played it yet? No. Not yet. I have it with me. It's one of the very few possessions that I brought from New Zealand to Australia, because it is my prized possession, because not only is it the game I was looking for, but it is the game. It is the actual disc that we had as a child. So I really want to get like a PlayStation 1 or a PlayStation 2 and plug it in, get it going, you know, run the whole thing again. And if by any chance I do all of that and this game is like too scratched to work or something, I might actually have an aneurysm. So by the look of the disc, it's actually still in really, really good condition, considering it is at least 20, 25 years old, surely. I'm 30, so it's got to be at least 20 years old. Probably just gonna see the very top of Rusty's head because he decided he was gonna scream until he was held this morning, so this is where we're at. Other than PC and PlayStation 1, obviously we moved to PlayStation 2 eventually, as everyone is destined to. I mean, unless you're an Xbox household, and that's absolutely fine. I just wasn't. I think the next gaming console I got after that was a Game Boy, and that was passed down from my brothers. One of my brothers had a Game Boy Color, and the other one had a Game Boy Color Advance. So I eventually ended up with both of those, not because they gave them to me, but because at some stage they would have abandoned them, and like the good little sister I am, I scooped them up and decided they were my belonging. So we had those, and my first Game Boy game that I ever played was Pokemon Red. Now, it had no save chip in it, it was totally burnt out, so you could only play as far as a pair of AA batteries would get you until either you fell asleep, your mum made you turn it off, or the batteries died. And I believe the farthest I ever got was the SSN, so it's probably not really that far into the game, but you gotta keep in mind I was a child, okay? So I remember getting onto the ship and doing like, running around doing all the battles and things like that, but never any further. So I would really like to play Pokemon Red one day just to see if I could, maybe see if I could finish it is what I was gonna say, but more than anything, just see if I could get past the boat. I'm gonna be honest, I don't have a very good recollection of Pokemon Red. I do just know that it was the first game I ever played on a Game Boy, followed by the second game I ever played was Pokemon Gold. Now, I love Pokemon Gold. It's my favourite Pokemon game ever, purely because I played it so much trying to beat it. I worked and worked and worked and worked and worked because I was young and I didn't really understand like the mechanics of strategy and things like that in games, and it took me a very long time to learn. So Gold was one that I played the crap out of. I still have these games. I still have my brother's Game Boy Advance, and I believe Red obviously doesn't have the save chip. Gold, I believe, is burnt out as well now, which is very, very sad. I only ever beat it one time, and I honestly don't think I ever played it again because I would repeatedly get all the way to the Elite Four, and then like I just couldn't beat all of them, and I'd put it down for a while and then come back, and I'd just start again, you know, because sometimes it's easier, it's better to start again. And I would just do that on repeat for literal years. I'm not kidding, trying to beat them, and then I finally beat them and I literally put the game down and never ever touched it again. After that, I was actually gifted a copy of Pokemon Yellow, where Pikachu like follows you around. That's absolutely adorable. And I had a couple of other games, like my brothers were really into Donkey Kong Country. Brothers had a really good save of Donkey Kong Country, and I still have that save. I have never ever started my own game on that because I don't want to erase their save because they have so many lives. So what I used to do was just get on and play it, lose all of the lives because I was absolutely terrible at the game, and then just turn it off without saving, so that every time I turned it on, I had this like infinite game where like all the levels were unlocked and I had like 99 lives or whatever it is, and I could just play to my heart's content without having to worry about like dying or unlocking anything or being like stuck anywhere, and it was absolutely amazing. I'm so glad I still have that, and I still do that now. I've never actually played the game in any kind of legit way. I just play my brother's old save. And the last thing I have for this video, which is something that I would love if you guys could comment down in the comments and answer these questions as well, is the game I wish that I could play for the first time again. Like, what would it be? Mine would be Pokemon Gold, because I absolutely love that game, and I've clocked so many hours on that game, probably easily 500-600 hours as a child. I would smash that again. So if you guys could answer in the questions, what game would you play for the first time? Like, if you could pick any game to play for the first time ever again, what would it be? Or tell me if you have abandoned a game or maybe had a game from your childhood that you would love to go back and play and finish, what would it be? Because mine would be Final Fantasy A2. Now, I had that on the Nintendo DS, and I've been trying to find a copy of it for a very, very long time. It's actually what I asked Mark for my 30th birthday. I know, your 30th is supposed to be like some big thing, and the only thing I really asked for was a Nintendo DS, a pink one, because my mum got me a pink one when I was a kid, and a copy of Final Fantasy A2, because I really loved that game, but as a lot of games when I was a child, I would hit a certain point that I just could not beat it, and it wasn't super far into the game. It was only like the second map. So I think now as an adult, I'm so much better at games. I definitely could beat it. But also I just want to see the world again. Like, just one more time, you know, if I could play that again and be like, okay, cool, this is neat. Because it's so different than the other Final Fantasy games that I've played. I've never expected at the time to have one that was like that. Like, I remember my mum buying me the game when I was a kid because I was like, oh, it's Final Fantasy, you know, and then plugging it in for the first time and being like, what the heck is this? Because it's so different to anything that I'd played on the PlayStation. So that's my one game that I would love to go back and finish and to play for the first time ever again, Pokemon Gold. Which I think are two pretty solid options, personally. So yeah, if you could answer those questions for me, I would be really, really interested in seeing what you guys say. Maybe there are some games that I've never even heard of. Actually, that's very highly likely. So pop them in the comments. I want to see what you guys say. Maybe I'll find something new for myself. If you like this video, make sure you give it a like. And if you want to subscribe, you'll get a notification of when I upload next weekend, because I upload every Sunday at 7 AM Brisbane time. Other than that, I want to say thank you for tuning in again, and I will hopefully see you next week. So from me, oh hello, me and Rusty. We'll say bye-bye for now.